Questions. Hi.
Hello?
Hello,
Hello,
Hi.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
how can you?
Welcome to the Double L Show, where we mostly talk about random things. And this time it's a Waterloo Road special thing that we probably never thought we'd ever talk about, especially after the whatever you want to call it, the reboot. Yeah, so I'll start with one question. How did it
Alright.
come about, your audition for the show?
So for the show, it's actually a funny story. I actually auditioned for the wrong part the first time. So they sent me a script out as just a general audition. They were auditioning for Waterloo Road. I got quite excited for it because obviously I'd heard about it. And I auditioned for the character of Harley.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it kind of went a completely different way. Um, but I remember I auditioned for Harley and they kind of like went through the audition. And then at the end, they were like, okay, so you do realize you auditioned for the wrong part. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, you were supposed to have Zach's lines. I was like, I didn't get anything. So in my mind, I was panicking. I'd messed up. That was it. That was the end. I haven't got the role. Like, it was a waste of time. And they were like, okay, would you mind just reading for it? So I said, sure. Obviously I was still panicking. They were like, okay, just take a couple minutes, have a read, and then whenever you're ready, we'll go for it. So I was just kind of in full panic mode, and I just kind of read through it, and then I was like, okay, let's go. And then I read it, and they said thank you very much, and that was it. So I came out the audition. I was like, God's sake! Like, obviously it wasn't my fault, but I was
Mhm.
thinking it. And then a couple of weeks went by and they were like, yeah, we want to call you back. You've got an audition for Zach. And I was like, okay, Zach this time, fantastic. So I learnt the script, went back, I auditioned. I can't remember what it was. It was some episode lines in the show. I can't remember what they were. And I auditioned again for Zach this time. And then, yeah, a couple of weeks went by and I got the role. So it was kind
Wow.
of like I can't describe it. It was just it was so weird. I thought I completely messed up, and I don't know, maybe that's what they were looking for, just a completely terrified child, because that's what I was.
I mean, technically, Zach was pretty terrified in it.
Yeah,
He
he
just
was
was
just
like,
yeah, he was afraid of everything.
yeah, and
Yeah.
So
everyone essentially. At
maybe
least I
yeah,
haven't got a face like a bulldog.
yeah. Oh God, yeah. Oh
Apart from
my
when he punched
God,
that
yeah,
kid in the face.
yeah, yeah. He's just a menace. He's a menace to society.
So I'm gonna get Lee to ask a question because I'm pretty sure we haven't even like conferred notes.
You
Yeah,
haven't,
go for
no.
it.
I was just gonna I put down what was it like having Alex Walkinshaw as your dad in the show?
He was fantastic. We had a great on screen. Well, I wouldn't say on screen relationship was. I don't think he was my dad. We never saw eye to eye, but off screen he was fantastic. He taught me a few things, and he was there to help me out. He could see when I was kind of nervous about things because it was my first ever job. It was my first acting job, so I was, a boy in a man's world, so to speak.
Mhm.
So he was fantastic. He was really good. He's really funny and he's really charming as well. So yeah, I don't think anyone else could have played the role quite like him.
We should
Yeah,
try and
he's
get him on.
Yeah,
yeah,
one
yeah,
time, yeah.
he's fantastic.
I'll go back to mine. We should just do back and forth.
Yeah, we
Probably
should.
be easier. My phone keeps locking every time. How did you prepare to take on the character of Zach?
Um, I didn't have any particular process in mind, only because I was still learning about acting at the time. I didn't really have like a method or technique, so it was just I just did what I thought was best at the time. I knew how to learn lines, I knew how to read scripts. So that was basically my preparation. I just learned the lines, I turned up, and then every take I'd be asking the director if it's okay. Was that good? Was it all right? And then it was one my mum and my dad, they pulled me to one side and they were like, you need to stop after that. if it wasn't okay, they would tell you. And I was
Oh,
like, yeah, fair point, fair point. Because it was probably very annoying, but I was so nervous and I was
mhm.
so I can't even describe it. It was
That
just
would
it
be
was
me
pure
later on this
nerves.
year. I'll
Yeah,
be exactly like that.
yeah. It was just pure terror, and it was just I wanted to make sure obviously everything was okay. So I stopped asking, and I kind of picked up very quickly on what was a good take and what was not a good take.
Your turn again.
Do you have like a favourite memory of being on the set of Waterloo Road?
Um, I think that two spring to mind. One was when I first stepped onto the set. I think it's crazy. You do that thing where you'll see it on the TV, and then you walk and you're like, oh my God, it's exactly like it is on the TV. Like, of course it would be. Why would they just change it? They wouldn't lie. But it's so surreal. It's weird seeing it on the TV, and then all of a sudden you're there and you're part of it. So it's a very weird, funny feeling. So that was definitely one of the strongest memories I've got. And then the other one was it was more offset moments just in general. Um, one of the guys brought in his PlayStation one time. We were playing that. We didn't want to film because all we wanted to do was play on the PlayStation and have a laugh. And then there was a really warm day. The sun was shining. There was no clouds in the sky. So we were just kicking about football for every time they said cut, right, we'll take a break. We just whizzed off and we just started playing football and kicking it about and having a laugh. So it was a very nice. I had a great time. It was a very nice time.
Were you a fan beforehand? Because I think we've talked about it at one point, and I think that might
Mm,
have been like 2016 or 2017, like
yeah,
that long ago.
that is long ago. Yeah, makes me feel so old
I
now
feel
talking about.
old as well.
Yeah, well, I still class the 1970s as 30 years ago. That's just
It
normal.
does feel like that.
I'm
Same. I
now,
still think that way.
yeah, yeah, it's nearly like 60 years ago, and I'm just like, oh God. So yeah, sorry, wait, what was the question? Oh, well, am I a fan? Was I a fan before? Um, I didn't really watch it before. I'd kind of seen glimpses, but my parents were fans. They'd watched it since day one. They can remember all the old characters, and they talk to me about it, and I'm like, I can't remember. And then they'll show me a pitch, and I'm like, I remember you watching it, but I don't remember. I don't know anything about it. So my parents were big fans, and then when I got the job, they were really happy. And because I was under 16, I had to have a chaperone. So they kind of fought sometimes to see who could take me and just to obviously be around the cast and the crew and the set. So yeah, but I am a fan. I am a fan.
I don't
Uh,
even know why I have to prompt him.
It just feels right.
do you have a favourite character from the show?
Copy.
And if so, why? Are they
Favorite
your favourite?
Um, I loved Tom Clarkson.
Same.
He he to me was the best teacher in Waterloo Road. I wish I had a teacher like him, just because he didn't take any crap. He was real, and it wasn't those. He didn't just teach by the book. He taught and tried to help every student individually, which is a mammoth of a task because you get so many students every time in every hour of every class. But his character was amazing, especially the relationship with his son. I just thought he was such an awesome character, and I wish I had a teacher like that in school because that probably would have made me learn more. I would have wanted to be there because he said it how it is, and I love people like that. I think we need more of that in the world.
Definitely.
We
I
need
mean,
more
it's
Tom
just,
Clarksons.
yes, it's so
Yes.
sad though, like the way he ended up
Yeah,
leaving because he was helping a student. Like, sorry, but that Kyle Stack
I
did
know.
not deserve that much
Oh
help.
no.
No, we did not.
Absolutely. Like,
No,
I
we did
bawled
not.
my eyes out, and my friends were mocking us. They kept mocking us to like, oh, look what I'm watching. And I was just crying my eyes out even more. And I was like, just stop. I'm like, how dare you? I'm like, you're supposed to be my friend and you're teasing us about it. I've been watching this since I wasn't even allowed to watch it.
That
But
was
yeah,
kind of
I
when
was like, come on, you've got to, you can't kill Tom. He's going to
no,
survive it. And then when his
yeah,
eyes shut, I was like, they've done it, haven't they? They've
that's
killed
it.
him.
Yeah, I think that was like that was like the Game of Thrones-esque death of the time. It was just that there was nothing like it. And then obviously when he did die, it was just like people can actually die in this show. It
They
was a
did
shock.
though. In the beginning, there was a lot that died. I think it was like 2 in one season,
Mm,
if I'm not wrong, because it was like Lorna, then it went Izzy
Izzy.
within a
yeah,
few episodes. It was pretty tragic and dark. It was very dark back then.
that was
Yeah.
very dark. I mean, what was the death? It was it Chloe with the Earls?
Oh
She got
no,
shot.
Maxine.
Maxine.
Oh, Maxine. Sorry, yeah, Maxine. Yeah, that was brutal. I think that's when I started to watch it. And this was way before I even got the role. I'd obviously started watching it, and yeah, it was pretty intense. So I was a fan from then, but I never watched it since day one.
Mhm.
But my parents remember all of it. So yeah, it's always been such a good real show, and it just tells the story so well of not only teenager problems, but adult problems, teacher problems, educational problems. It was just there wasn't a show like it, and I don't think there has been since.
Yeah, I would.
Mm.
It definitely, like, sometimes it doesn't portray the reality, which kind of sucks, or sometimes there's issues that they started to deal with that actually never got like dealt with fully, which kind of sucked. It's like it was done in one episode, which isn't as realistic as it could be. I mean, there's potential to help a lot of people sometimes in storylines, and yeah, it was a shame that they didn't deal with things more.
I think for those kind of issues, I think because it you can't just get over it in an episode, or sometimes people never get over their issues. So I think trying to put that in a show such as Waterloo Road, I think it's difficult sometimes to tackle certain issues. So it depends. I think they deal with it well, but yeah, I agree. They could have dealt with it in other ways, but it's also a drama, so I think it's yeah, they're balancing quite a lot on their plate.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
one thing that stands out for me is that like Carla was the first ever character that I'd seen who was autistic on TV. And actually, when you get your diagnosis, you're like, that's not me. And then you grow to realize that how inaccurate it was, like, and how much damage that can actually do. Because although there was a media theory that apparently got debunked because it's no longer relevant, which it clearly is relevant, people get the ideas from the media, and people get it's just like that impacts people, but sometimes in the wrong way. They're like, oh, so you like this? And yeah, it's kind of a shame that they didn't put in as much research, and the terms that was used and stuff were quite demeaning. Like there should have been a lot more support around that. I mean, there eventually was, but it's just like, what is this? Like that is not great. But I'm not going to get into that because there's so much around that subject. My next question: who was your favorite student?
Student. Ooh. Was this on my series, or was this kind of in general of like my favorite watching, or as a fan of the show?
I have no idea.
Should we do
Any?
both? Okay,
Yeah, do
I'll do
both.
both. I think my favorite student in my series was Harley, only because he was my off-screen kind of close friend at the time. Because we were a similar age. He was a year or two older than I was. So we kind of bonded over the same things of, lad stuff and gaming and stuff like that. And he bought a laptop, which I thought was awesome. He got his Waterloo Road paycheck and bought like a gaming laptop. And I thought it was the best thing ever. So we used to sit and just play, and I'd watch him and be like, this is so cool. I've never seen anything like it. So that was probably from my season, I'd say that was my favorite student. But for all the stuff, there's a lot of good students. I loved I love Finn Sharkey. He was I liked his character development. He started as the bad lad, and then he became quite a respected student. I thought that was quite awesome. I don't know who my favorite was. I definitely have people I love more than others, but I don't think I could choose a favorite. What about you guys?
Oh God.
It's a tough question. I just wanted to
It
see what you
is.
come out with.
I'll go. He can go first.
I would say favourites, like, I would probably have to say, God, this is harder than I thought. Dante Charles, go basic. I like his development over time, and his relationship with Chloe was one of the best moments in the series.
Okay, so my turn. I would say Mika because she like in the early seasons we got to see like how damaging bullying is, and they really took it so far and to show that she wanted to overdose and she literally tried to kill herself because of it. And I felt like that was really powerful and just made her as a character so much like more relatable to people. But yeah.
That moment has been stuck. I remember first watching it live. I was like just in shock when the tablets were getting, he was dragging them physically out of her mouth. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I think I was about like 12. I hadn't seen anything like that before on TV.
Yeah, it was pretty. I don't even know how to even describe it, but
It's scary stuff.
powerful as well.
Yeah, very, very.
Okay, isn't it my? I think it's my question next.
I think so.
Okay, who was the best head teacher?
Okay, I can only go on what I know. I loved Rachel.
Up to your answer.
I
Yes.
think she was the best head. Not only because obviously I feel like she I remember a lot of her stuff. She had so much going on, but you could tell that she was for the school. She would live, breathe, and die by the school. She was so, again, she was so real as well. She dealt with situations in kind of similar ways that I would now. And it's hard, like running a school, especially a school like Waterloo Road was. The students, it's just chaos. But yet she was just there every day trying to do her best. And I think the way she got through to some of the kids as well was like she deserved an award, at least a medal, something, because she really had her work cut out for her.
Yeah, I feel like that was the only right
I think,
answer.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like
I
there
mean,
wasn't really another.
yeah, no, there've been others, but I don't know. She just, I, I, I can literally only think of her because I loved her as the head teacher.
I was devastated when it was like, oh, she's not coming back.
Yeah,
What?
yeah,
Like that was just so tragic. The
yeah.
transition as well, because you're like, so who's next? Like,
I
who
was
was supposed to
hoping,
expect?
I was hoping that I'd get her in the next season, and obviously she didn't come in. And I was like, oh, great, okay, right, okay. And then obviously it was kind of jumping from season 6 to when she was in it to season 7. It was it felt like a rebrand of the Waterloo Road School and the Waterloo Road Badge. It moved away from certain issues and made new ones, and the characters were completely different. I feel like it moved forward with the times pretty well. And I feel like going back to your point, the way they dealt with some of the issues, they I feel like it wasn't talked about at the time. So I feel like when they made these episodes, but looking back now, it's like, oh my God, how did they not see that? How can they not deal with that? But I think back in the time, it wasn't talked about like it is now.
Mm.
So they can only go on what they've got. So I think for the time they dealt with the issue as it probably could have been at that time should have been. But now the way mental health is talked about and sexuality and orientation and everything that is going on at the moment, I feel like they dealt with it as best they could at the time. But Waterloo Road, I think, it's always been around the time of whatever's going on in the world. So it moved forward with the times, but it didn't do it in a pushy way. It was
Yeah.
just, well, this is what happens in school, so let's tell this story, or these stories rather. So that's personally what I think, though.
Yeah, just like what I wish was like someone actually put in the research to what autism, because Asperger just doesn't exist because it's a Nazi term. So
Yeah.
they're totally like, it's gone completely. But if they'd done a bit research, they would have seen like the way things actually are. But
Yeah.
a lot of people just skip over research sometimes. I mean, me and Lee, like, we dedicate ourselves. Like, we full on will research a topic until it's in our brains forever.
Yeah,
But
I literally spent hours looking stuff up to make sure everything is as realistic as possible.
your
Nice.
question now.
Let's see. I'll go with, do you have a favorite series?
Oh my god, that was my next one.
Series ever or
Like
favorite
just,
Waterloo Roads?
just favorite Waterloo Road series. Like if you had to watch one every day for a month, full series, which
Sure.
one would you choose?
Sorry,
I
something
don't
weird just happened.
don't know the timeline. It's either 5 or 6. 5 or 6 for me. Those are the ones I remember the most. I can't remember what season 4 was. It was kind of when the Earls were there. I don't know if that was season 4 or
Yeah, it
5.
Series
was
4 was when
four.
they were introduced.
Right, okay. Okay,
Yeah,
I
and
changed
5
my
was
answer.
John Foster's.
Right, okay, I'll
Oh,
change
yeah.
my answer to 4. Purely because I loved that storyline. And the storyline of she was gonna die, she had cancer, broke me. I was like, this, I don't know if this is okay. Like, I don't know if it it's the fact that she just accepted it. I'd never seen anyone react that way before. Whenever I'd heard the term, it was always you go on chemo, you get better, you're fine, you're okay. And then she just turned around, she was like, well, no, this is how I'm going. So season 4. Or yeah, I'd see series season 4, maybe season 5. But I love the Earl storyline. I thought each and every character in that family was so well written. And I love the mum as well. Trying to juggle all them kids. Obviously, Earl Kelly was probably the worst character on Waterloo Road. Not in terms of performance, just he was awful. He was literally evil. He was out to just cause harm and pain. So yeah, season
Yeah, it
4.
was kind
That
of like
was
the modern version of Lewis Seddon in a way, I would
I
say.
think more evil.
Yeah,
I don't think
definitely
Lewis
more
Seven would have
evil.
brought a gun to school, and I don't think he would have shot his ex or something. I don't think Lewis would have done that.
Nah, probably not. I mean, his ex was Maxine, but
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
um,
Season 4.
what's the next
That
one?
was
What
a
is
good.
your go-to episode?
You know what? I haven't actually watched it since I was in it. I watched. Everyone talks about rewatching it, and I've not rewatched it. I watched from season 4 onwards. That was when I got into it, and I thought it was really good. And then obviously I got the role, and I watched my episodes as they were coming out, and I've never rewatched them. But one episode that springs to mind is where, to go back to it, Earl brought the gun to school.
That was the first episode of the
Or was it?
season.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
then Reese as well got, what was it, where he was hiding
Denzel.
in the locker with the gun?
Yeah, that was so bad.
Denzel, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
Made him take
Denzel.
the
Denzel.
blame.
I'm talking real
Yeah,
names now. Yeah,
I know.
Denzel. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, where he was hiding, and obviously he was so young as well. It was because I met him when he was a bit older, and all I'd ever heard was his unbroken boy voice. And then I met him, and he was like, "You're right, my name's Reese." I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
So it was kind of funny, but that episode was amazing.
really was.
Yeah,
Definitely. Like, I remember it so well. I remember the first time, like, I remember it so, like, when I first saw it on TV, because it was the first time I ever heard the script, Break Even. And that's what made it so memorable, because sometimes when you put certain songs to like certain moments, you're like, wow, damn, this makes it powerful. And that's why I remember that episode so well. I don't know why, but yeah.
just think I've never seen like a gun in a school like ever. Whenever we were talking about like when I was in school and it was like keep yourself safe, don't talk to strangers and all that, and it was like here are some of the kind of weapons you might see. And it was, it was the typical, there were knives, there were like pipes and whatnot, never a gun. So
Mhm.
to see that on TV, it was like, this guy is a lunatic. Like, he's going to kill people. He's going to go on a rampage. Like, it was just, there was, again, nothing like it at the time. So I was just, I really got into that then. And I was, yeah, I'd have to say, if I had to rewatch an episode, I'll cheat because it's kind of two, it crosses over and
Yeah.
then you find out what happens. So I'll say those two of when he brought the
Mhm.
gun. That was so shocking at the time.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
I was
Really.
shocked when they did the fake away. They made you think he had shot Dante, but turns out he
Yes.
had hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
And when he's staggering out, I'm thinking, oh no, but he just cut himself.
Yeah. I mean, now whenever I see cutaways, I've kind of gotten used to it. I think it was kind of that era of nobody'd really died in shows. Films had deaths all the time, but in TV shows, it was everything was fine. Nobody was. It's like everyone was just immortal. Nobody could die. Nobody could get hurt. Really, there were like the fatal, like somebody got hit with a car, and that was dramatic. But yeah, I think when you bring in such a thing that can obviously really harm people, or even worse, kill people, that really ramps up the drama. So they did a very good job. So yeah, I'll watch those two again.
Yeah. Your
Awesome.
turn for another question.
So I've got down, if you had to go back and influence a storyline you had, what kind of storyline would you have liked to see your character have?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Really, it is.
Yeah, only because I've genuinely thought about this, and as I'm older now, I've kind of I haven't necessarily matured. I'm still very mature, but I've grown up.
Yeah.
I didn't have a beard before. I wasn't 6 foot tall back then. I was so tiny, and my voice wasn't broken. So I was watching some of that back was. It's like watching videos of when you were a kid, which I
Yeah.
was. So I think now would be a different answer to back then. I think back then, if you'd have said, "Here's a storyline," I would have been like a little puppy going, "Yeah, it's fine, whatever you want." But now I'm a bit older. I think if I was to rewrite the storyline or write a storyline for Zach, um, see, personally, I don't think my dad was my dad's storyline. I thought, I don't know, it just seemed like it was thrown in there to give the character a bit of something.
Yeah, like they didn't know what to do for him essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of like it was a bit of a weak storyline. I kind of would have liked to have seen him maybe go into the bad crowd, mix with the wrong people and see where he's at, and then the real family problems could have started. He could have drank at school or started smoking or he did drugs or something, and then watches the character kind of goes a bit mad as because the whole identity thing would have been more interesting. There was a real thing at stake as opposed to just I don't think my dad's my dad. I'll do a DNA test on him kind of thing. So maybe a storyline like that, or maybe a storyline where Zach his writing actually got him somewhere to
Mhm.
then see the parents' reaction of, "Oh, I'm proud of you, mate," and I'd be like, "Well, I've never heard that before from my dad." So maybe something like that,
Yeah,
something
that's a
like that.
really good idea. Like,
Good one, yeah.
yeah. So a lot of people won't know why you couldn't actually go to Scotland and continue, but I know you've told me in the
Yeah,
past. So you explain that one.
I've got the platform now. So I was not of age to go to Scotland because when you're dealing with it's people under 16 years old,
Yeah, we
they
know
have
that
to be
now from
chaperoned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lockdown.
they have to be chaperoned. They have to be able to because obviously I'd be in Scotland, I'd have to go live there and
Mhm.
essentially still a minor, so I can't go off on my own. I was so begging to go because I really wanted to continue. I was like, please let me go. Like I'll lie. I'll say I'm 17 and I was trying to like think of everything I could to obviously go, and they said, unfortunately, you can't go because you're not old enough. And the worst part was I finished in November, and then in January I was 16. So if
Oh,
it
It's
was a
so
little bit
sad.
longer, I probably could have gone to Scotland and done the last series.
Yeah, he literally could have just not been in a few episodes or something like
Yeah,
that, and
yeah. I mean,
then
they
yeah.
weren't filming around then, but I think it was just for legal reasons and for. I mean, TV productions are hard enough to get off the ground anyway.
yeah, we
And they were
know
having
that.
to move
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, exactly. And they
Yeah,
were having to move their whole location, everyone. They had to pay the actors to obviously travel down there and live and just yeah. So that's why I think a lot of the characters didn't go. It was probably easier to start again. And everyone that I spoke to said, "Oh, it was a rubbish season. It wasn't Waterloo Road. Why did they move to Scotland?" They wouldn't have moved if they didn't have to. And Waterloo Road may or may not still have been going on for a few more seasons. Well, yeah, the government wanted to demolish the building. They didn't have the budget to keep it. So they had to think on their feet and move on.
yeah, it's quite a shame, really, because you just like when you think of it, you think of that set. You don't really think of Scotland. Although I did go to the Scotland set, I've got photos of it. But yeah, I still would have preferred the one in Manchester because that's where the history. Like I remember crying when I saw it was getting demolished. Like I saw photos as it was happening, and I was just devastated as a fan.
I
I
haven't
really
even been.
was.
I don't know what's there now. I don't
A
know if it's
house
a
and
new school.
estate, everything,
It's
all of it's been built
boring.
on.
It could have been something interesting. I don't know.
They should have just named it Waterloo Road.
Yeah, literally,
They could
Yes.
have.
literally.
Imagine
That
just being
was
like, I am living on TV history
yeah,
ground. I'd
because
pay. I'd
that
pay attention.
now it doesn't exist.
I know.
It's yeah, it's a shame, but unfortunately, it's all about money and business and corporate and boring stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
well, the next questions I have are to more to do with like your acting career, so I don't know if Lee
Sure.
has any to do with Waterloo Road still.
I've got no questions left.
Okay, so we can
Hit on
move
Water
on
Road.
to the reboot because
Yeah.
technically, although there was like there's no Waterloo Road anymore, technically there is.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, so me and Lee, like I woke up at I think it was 6 o'clock that morning and it just happened to be dropped at that exact time. And I binge watched it the entire day till the point I was going crazy on the night because I couldn't stop thinking about it. But it is something else, like whereas the original dealt with issues in not a pushy way, like it was so forced. And some of it was so inaccurate for the times as well. They're like ADHD, oh, you'll probably get a diagnosis in like a few weeks, more like 7 years. Like a little research would have told them that because I'll probably end up on that waiting list as well. But yeah, it's kind of like it just felt so forced within the first minute. They're talking about like people putting racist across like the building and stuff, and you're like, what is going on here?
Mhm.
Like it's very now, but I felt like it was forced. It just felt like they were doing it because they had to in a way, not
Yeah.
because they wanted to.
I think now it kind of annoys me as well. I feel like art is separate from the world. Art is escapism. Stories, gaming, music, podcasts, everything. It's all about escapism. So I think to put such real world elements into a show, I don't think most of them work. I think you can have kind of a general storyline of them, but I think it's too recent to talk about like because I watched some of it. I haven't watched the series because I didn't like it. I didn't like how pushy it was. And I was like, well, this is just an excuse to. I feel like it's lazy writing. They haven't thought about any of the storylines. It's just, well, what's happening in the world? Oh, okay, we're tearing down statues because of racism. Cool, we'll put that in. There's no there's no thought. It's become you could just like class it as a documentary about a school now because that's what it feels like. So I think sometimes, in fact, all of the time, I feel like art should be separate. I think you can touch upon certain subjects, of course you can, That's what art is all about. It's all about expression and being who you want to be and doing what you want to do. But I think keep it separate from. Keep it separate from the way they've done it.
Yeah,
It doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
like if you've done it, say, subtly and stuff like that, that it's
Yeah.
just like it's not pushed upon you, and like it fits with like the narrative of things, and like explains, like in mine, I'm probably not even allowed to give anything away, but whatever. You've read it anyway, so where a certain character reveals why she's been acting a certain way and stuff like that, and it's like heartbreaking in a way, because you're like, wow, that actually makes sense of why that character's been the way they have been and why they changed so dramatically. And I feel like in that way it's completely fine to discuss like certain things, but if it's just been like, oh yeah, so this happened, oh, and this is happening here, and just throwing it
I
out there so everyone
Yeah.
knows.
one episode that springs to mind in Waterloo Road, I thought they dealt with it in a really good way. Was it Matt, where he didn't feel like he was a boy, he felt like he was a girl.
I know the one you're on about.
Yeah, was it Matt? I believe he
I
had
remember his name.
he had on his. I don't think he had a tie, did he? He had a like a pin brooch on his collar. Yeah, and it won a. I think it
Yeah,
won
I remember that one. I'm just
BAFTA
like thinking,
award or something. Yeah, I think that issue that wasn't forced at all. It was done in a really good way, because at the time I didn't know about that kind of stuff.
yeah, I don't think
I
anyone
didn't.
really did.
It was brand new, but it wasn't in your face. It was essentially it was like a bullying storyline. He was different to everyone else. We got bullied, and that's unfortunately the way I feel like every school kid goes through that. If you don't fit into the norm, you're an outcast, you're a loser, you're a misfit, whatever. So I think they dealt with it in a really nice way, because it seemed to be very fresh at the time. I'd never heard anything about it. I was almost it was I feel like it was written in such a way that I was confused, but not because of my own personal agenda. It was a case of, like, what is going on? I don't understand this. And I think it was so well written in that way because the audience reacted that way. And so did the students, even some of the teachers. When he stood up on the stage and he said, so this is who I am. I'm not hiding it anymore. I'm not a boy. I'm a girl. And the reactions were, I feel like it was spot on. It was silence. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody knew what to think. And I think that's when Waterloo Road was at its best.
Yeah,
When,
Yeah.
yeah, that's personally what I think. And then having watched the new one, like you said, within the first episode, I watched 5 minutes and I was like, I'm not watching a drama anymore. I'm literally just watching. You could put Waterloo Road episodes on TikTok now. It's just a woke thing, and I don't like that. So I haven't watched the rest of the series. I have no interest in it. It doesn't feel like I can be engaged. And it's not about subjects that don't matter to me, or I'm not part of a certain crowd, so I can't watch it. For me, I always love stories. Stories I can sit down, and whether they deal with real issues or not, I enjoy getting lost in a story, following these characters. What are they going to do next? Where are they going? What's their journey? What's their character arc? That to me is what attracts me about a program or a film or a book, a game, whatever, a podcast, for instance. I want to hear about the stories, the content, the people. So I don't think Waterloo Road has captured that at all.
yeah, like
It's
the real
thrown
life
in
aspect
all.
of school in a way, I would
Yeah,
say. It's like
Yeah.
they've glorified what school's about in a way, like
I
saying,
totally
oh,
agree.
everybody loves to go to school. But the truth is, in reality, people don't.
I
People
think
find it
most
so
people don't
miserable.
want to go to school. Yeah,
Yeah,
most
Yeah.
people are miserable. They don't want to go to school. I hated school. I
same.
hated school.
Same.
I got bullied. I got called names, I got insulted, I didn't really have any friends. I floated about with people that, I don't speak to anyone from school.
Pretty
Those
much the
people
same
that
with me.
I
yeah,
don't.
it's just, I, I, I feel like what the old Waterloo Road captured well was individuality. Every single character that was written was a character in its own. It was a three-dimensional character. Whereas these ones just feel like I could pick them out of any TikTok video I see. There's no, I don't know how to describe it.
Stand out, I would say, like unique. They're
Yeah,
kind of like carbon
Yeah.
copies of each other.
literally, yeah, that's a perfect way of saying it. They are carbon copies.
Yeah.
I think,
Finally,
yeah,
I get the right words.
yeah. Stand out. That's another way. There's no standing out. It's just they're all now
Blend in.
they're the same, yeah. And I mean, they've captured that quite well in the world because now everyone wants to be the same kind of thing. And I think that's been it from the get-go. Everyone just wants to fit in. Nobody wants to feel like an outcast. But I think the beautiful thing about people is that we're all different.
Yeah, like why do
Yeah.
people want to be the same? Like I remember in my school, like there was like 150 something in the year, and 90% of the year were popular. And over time, it got bigger and bigger because they kind of converted people into their clan. And it was like they'd make you feel so insecure that you weren't like this perfect person and you weren't like them. But like, why would I want to be like you anyway? Like that's the thing. Like I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing my own path. What is the issue with that? What is the issue if other people want to do what they want? Like it doesn't affect them.
Exactly. I think my philosophy is if you're not hurting people, do what you want. Say what you want. If you're not insulting people and you're not hating on people and hurting people, do what you want.
Yeah, that's the best way to live.
Absolutely. I don't think any of the greats either. Like Van Gogh didn't wake up and go, well, I'm not like everyone else. He did his own thing. He did his own thing, painted amazing, beautiful pieces, and now he's loved for it.
Definitely. It's always like the unique, like you look at the people around you and like all the ones who were mostly appreciated throughout history, they just like did their own thing, and that's why they're loved, and that's why they're kind of timeless in a way. They're just absolute classics that can't be replicated.
They would have stood out in their own periods for being unique to themselves.
Even if they were classed as like say weird and stuff like that, like Bowie is like a legend and lives on. Like he just is.
I mean, in terms of the way things are, he would have been a weirdo. And that's the best thing about David Bowie. He was a weirdo, but that's what made him cool, and that's what made him David Bowie. Like he was awesome. And I love the way he talks about art and expressing yourself and just basically doing what you want to do, forget everyone who hates you and whatever. Let people hate you. That's just more publicity for you. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great. But yeah, I think just be weird. Stand out. It's great.
So I'm going to go on to the questions that are right at the bottom.
Yeah,
it's all right. No, like, because that's important stuff.
Could talk all day.
What is your best advice for new actors?
Don't. I joke about it and I always say, do you want to be happy or do you want to be an actor? You can't have both unless you're the A-listers. But in all seriousness, I think for actors, I'm still figuring it out now. I've got accustomed to I can learn lines quick now because I've got my process and I've got techniques, but I'd say one of the biggest things that's kind of helped me, I'd say write. Even if it's the worst script in the world, just write.
Yeah,
because you can develop your own characters in a way you want. Because obviously you get a script and the character's kind of told to you and you fit in the boots. You get given the shoes and you just have to wear them. Whereas if you write the script, you get to make the shoes. You get to decide whose shoe fits who. So I'd say write scripts, maybe make your own work. That can be a good way of getting into things. Don't place all your eggs in one basket as well. I did that for a very long time, and I'm kind of suffering for it now, where I only pursued acting, and I'm 12 years in, and I'm still figuring stuff out. So find passions and hobbies and things you like, because trying to wait for that one audition or trying to wait for that one opportunity can put you in a really bad mental space. You need to flourish in things. Keep your mind active, do some reading, do some research, look at opportunities. I'd say network as well. It's all about who you know. It's not
That's
about
very
what you know,
true.
but who you know.
Good point.
And if you can build up a strong network, I mean, I could sit here and give advice for hours, but
mhm,
I think just figure out what kind of actor you are. You
mhm.
might be into specifically a comedy actor, or you might want to be in an actor who only does classical. I'd just say find out, in order to find out what kind of actor you are, you need to find out what kind of person you are. Because you inject some of yourself into the characters. I don't believe in method acting. I think it's a pretentious way of thinking you know what you're doing when in reality you don't. Nobody can fully become the character.
Mhm.
You become a version of the character you think is best. That's why we hold auditions. 1,000,001 people will be auditioning for the same role, but only one person will get it because they've shown the right things and
Literally
they've
us.
presented it in a way that makes you go, "That's what I saw." You're
Mhm.
playing a guessing game. You just have to hope that you're getting the things that the casting director wants you to get.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
for example, like we held auditions in December, and like there was so many people that day, but like you knew, you just know, like you just we knew like straight away when the person just spoke, like they just took it on, and they took it on in another level completely, and that's
And
what's
And another,
special.
yeah. And another thing is get the character's name right. Because I don't know how many versions of Maya I heard that day.
oh, I literally straight away I was like, well, this is Maya.
So somebody called her Mayo at one point.
Mayo. All
Yeah.
right, okay, fair enough. Is she saucy? Is she like zesty or spicy or something? Or I don't know. Yeah, you said a really good point then. I can't remember what you said. I was going to bring another point up on it. I can't remember. It's about, oh, you just know. Oh no, it wasn't that. I can't remember. Maybe it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me.
It's fine. I'm gonna get these ones out the way, but you've kind of answered the next question already, and it was a really like this is probably the best question I've ever came up with. Do you think it's better to create opportunities like for yourself or wait for one to arise? But you've kind of already answered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can kind of expand upon it.
Yeah.
I think I think both. Do both. Waiting for an audition is great, and if you've got an agency, if you're lucky enough to get one, that's fantastic because they can get you opportunities that you won't be able to get. That's the good thing about an agency. But at the same time, you are waiting for that one opportunity or those few opportunities that may or may not lead to work. So I think if you can create your own work, I feel like I've become a better actor learning about industry sayings or the cruise job. Um, I'm not a master in editing or lighting or sound, but I know enough that it can kind of give me a new perspective. So when they're talking about certain shots, maybe I could suggest something that allows me to help them out, or it can even better make my performance better because I know what they're going for. And even though it's a very technical mindset, I can still do my job because I know my lines. I show up and I've got my techniques or whatever you want to call them. So both. If you can do both, then definitely do both. Get yourself a team, and you don't even need to release it at the start. Just make content and just keep it to yourself, and then maybe ask somebody to review it, and they can say, okay, it was good or bad, or here's what was good, here's what was bad. So I think just be creative and just create opportunities, make opportunities, look for opportunities, and then you're not just sat around waiting.
Yeah,
And that's what
that's
I've learned. I've been in over a decade, and I'm only now just realizing the power I could have by doing my own things.
Mhm. The last question of mine, because I wrote quite a bit. Who would you
Okay.
say inspires you?
Oh, like in life
Yeah,
or acting? In life.
both.
Okay.
I don't know any.
Um, mine changes all the time. I don't have anybody that I can go, yes, that man or that woman has inspired me for everything. I think I'm always inspired when I'm looking for something specific, which sounds ridiculous because I'm like, I'm really feeling unmotivated and I'm not feeling creative today. And then I'll find something that's motivating and creative and that will inspire me. Or sometimes I'll get inspired by things I didn't know I was looking for.
Mhm.
Mine can come from anywhere. Music's a big thing for me. I I write to a lot of music. I can look at characters from different point of views with music. Um, but my inspiration can come from anywhere, which is kind of cool because I never know where it's going to come from next.
That's what I love about stuff, because I used to have like set inspirations of like, this is the person I want to be like, but now I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm just gonna go off the flow in life. Like,
Mm.
it's so much easier.
And it's more exciting as well because you don't know what kind of person you're going to be tomorrow.
Me with borderline personality disorder.
Sometimes literally or metaphorically, yeah.
No, honestly, that's chaos, but yeah. That was
That's
like the
another
funniest
episode.
thing I've came out with in a while.
Yeah, just mine can come from anywhere. I know that's kind of a cop out answer, but I'd say okay, a big one for me at the moment is because I'm kind of looking for that. Jordan Peterson is been a big inspiration for me at the moment.
Mhm.
I think sometimes I'm very stuck doing the same thing every day. And even though I may know what he's talking about or I already know this, it's kind of refreshing to hear what he has to say or he puts it on a different perspective. So at the moment that's one person that's really inspired me at the moment. So
Lee, have
yeah.
you got any other questions?
Trying to pick up one, going to the acting thing. Growing up, was there one actor you used to kind of admire and be like, "Ooh, I really wish I could be like him"?
Yeah. It's controversial now because of what's happened, but my inspiration growing up was Will Smith. Yeah. I thought when he was at his 90s, early 2000s peak, and
Just
a
names
bit
going
into
through
like
my head.
2010. Yeah, like obviously he's gone downhill because of everything that's gone on. But as an actor, separating the person from the art, the what he's created, his career was so admirable. Like I Am Legend was one of my favorite films for a while. I just love that. Um, and to see him practically do everything on his own. He didn't have anyone to act against. He was practically doing monologues all the time. And obviously the zombies weren't there because it was all CGI. So,
Mhm.
to see his performance in that was awesome. And I loved iRobot as well. I thought he had such range when he was younger. So that was a person I loved when I was growing up. Now it's probably more like James McAvoy. I everything I see him or Gary Oldman, he's such a chameleon. I didn't realize Gary Oldman was Sirius Black for the longest time. Because obviously I didn't read the credits when I was younger. I watched the film and I was like, that was so good. And then I'd move on. And then I'd realize it was Gary Oldman. I was like, man, this guy can do anything. So I'd say more so now, James McAvoy, his range is incredible. And Gary Oldman. If I could have or amount to half of what they've accomplished, I'd be very happy.
Mhm. Does he have any more questions? Because I think I'm
That's
all
a
out, and
question
then we
anyway.
can just have like a
Choice, yeah,
full-on
really does.
conversation about random stuff.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I love talking.
Me too. Right.
I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah. I mean, so do I. You got any other questions then, Lee?
I don't know. Do you?
Okay. So that was the Double L show. I hope you enjoyed.